All right. Number 1, Georgia. 2, Michigan. 3, TCU. 4, USC. 5, Ohio State. And number 6, Bama. How you feel?
That is how I predicted.
I agreed.
But it's not what, as I talked about with Alabama, I don't agree.
Who do you think should be 6?
The thing that it's got to be Tennessee.
Yeah,
because the argument is Tennessee, Bama.
They have the head-to-head.
Penn State is 8. Penn State's 2 losses.
Those 2.
Number 2, number 5.
Good argument
Technically, the best argument is for Penn State.
It really is.
You lost to number 2 and number 5. You handled your business in the rest of your games. Now, was your overall strength of schedule as much? Probably not, but they handled the business every week.
Tennessee got embarrassed.
Tennessee got embarrassed.
They should be out. And Bama lost to...
Bama lost twice and lost to Tennessee.
And lost to Tennessee.
So if...
Should be Penn State.
The problem is while those numbers have to be used, I do still believe in the eye test from a standpoint of like there's not 3 Big Ten teams better than Alabama.
Or potentially better than Alabama, right?
Or better than Tennessee.
No, you're right.
Nor do I want to see, and entertainment goes into this. If Hooker is healthy, I think Tennessee goes above Alabama. Hooker's not healthy, gives an easy excuse for the committee.
Are you
Alabama
good with this 4?
6.
Yeah. You think that's the 4?
That's the 4.
Like, I mean, after this weekend. Are you good with this 4 from an entertainment perspective?
Yeah.
Okay. In those matchups specifically, actually.
So the real question to me is if our prediction comes true, stop playing.
K-State comes in here.
And
TCU.
one of these 2 teams loses.
TCU 1 loss, Ohio State 1 loss. That's the situation.
Ohio State's getting in.
Without a doubt.
Best loss.
Best loss.
But like you can't even argue strength of schedule
from
or
the
anything
politics.
Like that. Yeah, just everything. So
but
Ohio
also
State,
eye test in terms of like
Ohio State will now get in.
But now do they flip these?
So TCU will move.
USC goes to 3 because they won their
championship.
So we have Ohio State, Georgia.
Even though Ohio State's win is their loss is better.
Then yes, correct.
But they didn't have to play the game, so I've got to give USC credit.
So right now,
not to mention you don't want the committee will not allow what the committee wants to see is TCU lose, USC win. They want to see a USC Michigan and a Georgia Ohio State matchup.
Correct.
And then they're fine if Ohio State Michigan meet again in the national championship,
but not in the first round.
Not in the first round.
Correct. I agree.
I
agree.
So the committee is rooting against TCU this week.
They're probably cool. I mean, they're ultimately cool with this and cool. They're probably good overall, but they prefer Ohio State being.
Yeah, you put Ohio State in there though, then, and look at those schools.
They don't like TCU.
I mean, granted, you're not seeing Alabama, but look at the schools.
The backing of these 3 and this one.
I mean,
not to mention
the only thing you're missing is Texas.
You know, the other play on that is it's actually 3 Big Ten teams, and that's what they're going to play on.
Yep.
So it actually makes more sense from a standpoint of money, marketability.
Yeah.
Ohio State gets in over TCU.
Now they would love to have, whether it be Alabama, whether it be, dare I even say Texas A&M, but Texas, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State.
They just can't make it happen.
Right. They're not going to make it happen. Penn State, a little bit, but not as much as Ohio State or Alabama. Tennessee, I think, brings eyeballs to the screens.
Right.
Great support there.
But in this scenario,
the team they don't want to see in there is TCU.
TCU does not want to be in.
Yes, but TCU's up to 3, as they deserve to be. You can argue Michigan should be 1, honestly.
Yeah.
But again, Georgia needs to be uprooted before that happens.
Right.
So Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC. The thing that I'm just so happy that they got right is that they did not overrank Alabama above Ohio State. Do I think they
lost it?
Yes.
I'd have lost it. Lost it.
But, here we are.
Here we are.
So.
Here we go. All right. Off to the college football.
Who's 9-10? Do we know? I know 7-8 are Tennessee and Penn State. I just didn't know who 9 and 10 were. Kansas State's 10th, by the way.
It says it right there.
So here's the problem.
Penn State's 8.
Tennessee 7.
Utah's 11.
Oh, where's the? I just need 7.
Why would you skip all of them but 7? Why is this? Oh, is this it? Yes. Tennessee. Oh, let me cut to it. This is it.
Clemson's still 9.
That is
What are you doing?
ridiculous.
Right.
Man,
I watched that Washington State game. Washington put up 705 yards of offense at 1 a.m. That's when the game lasted till, but it was like a 54-33 game.
I couldn't even fathom giving up 705 yards in 2 games, let alone
Michael Penix. I mean, Washington looked the real deal. I mean, their defense didn't look great.
I'm gonna get at you with this one.
But
there's 2 teams that you're not higher on at all. LSU, I think, is overranked here. But Florida State at 13.
Yeah, get the hell
Do
out
they
of here.
deserve it?
No.
Oh,
Teams scared to play Florida State.
All these teams, every one of them. No, not really. That's fine.
Team. Also, let's see. As I look down through most overranked teams in the top 25.
How many overranked teams are?
I'll start with number 25. That team does not deserve to be ranked.
No, that was because of preseason.
Yep. Mississippi State. No.
North
Carolina. No. They played like garbage. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I don't know what happened either.
No.
Yeah. UCF, I'd give them to them. I don't know about at 22. They're in the top 25.
Right, but like
Notre
all
Dame?
of these teams, here's the thing, is 20 through 25, every one of those teams, you could pick 5 other teams.
And be okay with it.
Between 25 and 40.
And be okay with it.
And be perfectly fine.
Absolutely, you're not wrong.
Okay, so I'm removing all 5 of those teams from the Are You Scared to Play a Top 25 team list. 19, South Carolina, deserved.
Yep.
You've beat 2 great teams.
You're good.
In hostile environments when they had a lot to play for.
Which is the
2 weeks in a row.
That's so important.
So much to play for. Like, not.
You know what? To me, they deserve actually a top 15. For
South Carolina, Florida State.
Give me Florida State, baby. No, honestly.
Here's the thing. Go down the list. South
way
Carolina,
better
Tulane,
so
UCLA,
South Carolina to me.
Oregon State, LSU, Florida State.
South Carolina to me should be 12.
13.
12, 13.
Yep. 100%.
Like I don't give a shit, but they're above Florida State, so kick them down. That's fine.
Okay, let's go down the list here. First of all, Oregon State beat Oregon. Oregon's a better football team. They're 15-16. I don't care what, like whatever. It doesn't matter. Like whatever happened. Oregon's a better football team than Oregon State, LSU, Florida State. Beat Utah by 4 touchdowns, I think. I'll take my chances against Kansas State,
There's a lot of
Clemson,
Pac-12
Penn State.
love.
So, like, here's my point. Oregon's 16th. They're a top 7 team in the country.
So let's back this up because the conversation we're going to have is it doesn't matter. Top 4, top 4.
Right.
But the top 12, right?
Correct.
This top 12 is it set for you in the top 12?
No. I mean, here's what I don't like. Well, first of all, I don't like Clemson is
here.
They're wolf in
Out.
sheep's clothing here.
Correct.
But like Oregon, you can't lose the 2 games you've lost and get like, yes, you are a better football team. You're the Ravens of the college football. Like
No wrong.
You have the talent, you have the quarterback, you have everything, and you just can't close games.
So Clemson's out in your mind. I'm good with K-State, Utah, Washington.
Yep, I can be good
But
there.
who comes in? LSU? Not
No, that's
shot.
I mean, that's
Oregon
to
State.
me is like the
12th?
next most deserving team based on finishing the season is South Carolina.
Correct.
However, you're not going to do that, so therefore,
Who is it?
Clemson, Florida State, neutral field. Florida State's not finding a way to win that game. LSU's not finding a way to win that game. Oregon State's not finding a way to win that game. Is Oregon finding a way to win that game? This year, no, but would I take Oregon over Clemson? Absolutely. So, like, my first team that I see to move into that spot is Oregon. And so, like, this is a very good glimpse of, like, what you're seeing in the committee room is, like, that's my feeling on these teams as they're ranked.
Mine's different.
You have a different feeling on Florida State than I do.
I would say first I agree with South Carolina.
Right.
But we have to negate that because it was the last 2 wins.
Right.
Right. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen.
But it's who they beat.
But
so
for me, it is Florida State. Florida State, I believe, would beat Clemson.
Okay, but would they beat Kansas State?
No, I'm not giving them up to 10, but I'm putting them at 12.
Right.
I'm taking Clemson out of.
Right. So like Clemson's just ultimately rated way too high.
Way too high.
But
Clemson,
like,
to me,
would
give
you
them
rate?
13.
Do you think Florida State's beating Oregon? No way in hell.
No, but I don't think this head-to-head would happen. But Oregon has more losses.
Right, and seeing like that's why I think this
That's
is
what
a
happens
good
to me.
idea of like in the committee is like, how do I want to look at it?
Right.
Do I want to look at what they did? Do I want to look at who they lost to, or do I want to look who they beat? Do I want to look at if I think
how the hell do
they
I weigh it?
played head to head,
Right.
how I feel like the game would go?
Yeah.
This is my whole LSU point last week. I have no faith in LSU beating a team. So like LSU Clemson to me is like one of those anomaly games
Right.
of like, ew.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and that's number 9 versus number 14.
Right.
But like
And it
that's
shouldn't be
not a
that.
game I want to tune into.
No.
And that's which team is going to beat themselves in order for the other team to win. And that's how I feel about Florida State as well. They played a 45-38 game against a Florida team who's got 3 or 4 wins this year.
Rivalry in-state game.
Right, which is fine.
Which is where I would weigh it.
Right, and that's great. Like Florida State is at least back on the map a little bit.
Shit.
But like they barely escaped Miami, who won 2 games this year.
That's true.
That's
true.
You know, like so that's where they're
But-
ranked ahead of LSU because they beat LSU game 1 of the year. Both teams filling each other out, trying to figure out where they are. They both end up 13-14. Both of those teams are fringe top 25 teams. But then you go to Tulane, and it's like, am I going to pick Tulane against any of those teams? It's like, hell no.
But also, like, I get there's a lot of Pac-12 love in the top 25.
Yeah, but it's all
Top 15.
fringe top 20. It's
But
like that's where
who have
we
they
can
played
give,
on the non-conference? They played
no,
shit.
nobody. They play themselves. and,
Oregon
like,
played
they
one
haven't
person.
quite destroyed themselves, and they
Georgia.
got destroyed.
So, like, that's where I'm like, look at all, the reason that there's so many Pac-12s in here is because they play each other. Because Oregon,
Because the
in
bottom half of the Pac-12 is so terrible.
is so bad. So that I can't give weight to the Pac-12, and that's why I just write most of them off.
So like I'm gonna throw a team, a middle of the pack team who's very competitive. Baylor, Big 12 school, who's not you know they're not a power conference, but they're not the Big 10, they're not the SEC, they're not the Pac-12. Baylor head to head against teams 13 through 25 is no more than a 3-point underdog to any of those teams.
Yeah.
And so like that is my
agree.
point about 13 through 25 is next year we're going to
This
even throw
conversation's gonna happen.
Washington, like Baylor Washington on a neutral field.
Can't rule it out. Shit, I would even put Utah in there, honestly.
Right. I mean,
And obviously
Baylor,
K-State.
Kansas State, they
Like,
were
we could
competitive
actually
game,
run
right.
this all the way up to 8.
Clemson, Penn State, exactly.
Even Penn
like,
State,
yeah.
actually.
And Tennessee at this point and even Alabama with what they've done this year.
It would stop at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Honestly,
so
with
like
Baylor.
so as we see it, because a lot of the arguments we're hearing now are what's wrong with 4. Maybe it should be 8. You know,
It's going to
12. You know, and then it's like, well, 12. We're still gonna have.
always
the
gonna have
arguments. But what did Florida State do to deserve to have an argument? What did LSU to deserve to have an argument? What did Oregon State, Oregon, UCLA, Tulane do to have an argument? They didn't do enough. They lost too many football games. They had chances to better themselves enough to be in the top 12. What Washington did on Saturday night got them to 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, if I'm arguing for a 12-team playoff, maybe I can, like I said, of the top 12, maybe I can argue one team shouldn't be in. And if that's the case, then they're doing a pretty damn good job.
That's exactly what I
This
wanted
is
to
as
hammer
good a
home.
job as I think the committee's done. Now I think the cards have fallen for them to be able to do that.
But chaos can happen this weekend.
But they could have put Alabama over Ohio State.
I'd have lost.
And if they did, we would have had a lot of questions.
Right.
Here's the problem. They have one more week.
They sure do.
Technically speaking, they can still move those. However, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 12.
10?
Nope. 7 or 8, 9, 10, and 11 all play this weekend. Or no, 9, 10, and 11 all play this weekend. 5, 6, 7, 8, none of them play. 5, 6, 7, 8 can't move up
9, 10, 11.
without somebody losing.
They win. They should move above.
That's the question. Does Clemson beating North Carolina,
Matter.
number 23,
Matter.
matter? More than Penn State not playing, Tennessee not playing, Alabama not playing, Ohio State not playing. North Carolina's 23. It's not a better win than Clemson already has, and it's not a better win than anybody else has on their schedule already. They just have to play one more game.
My opinion, not.
Does it matter if they lose?
It doesn't matter. They're not. I mean, if we're talking about 12 teams,
the thing is,
yes.
they're going to win if they. So here's where
Not
this
in
is
the
going to come in: is that you're going to get into these conference championship games, and Clemson would have a chance to lose their way out while other teams don't have to play.
Yeah, and I'm
should you be able to lose your way out?
In my opinion, yes.
If you want to be in the playoff, win the damn game.
It's your conference championship.
No, I don't disagree. Kansas State, they're playing. So here's the Kansas State scenario. Mm-hmm. They're playing the number 3 team in the country. They're number 10.
They're locked. They're locked no matter what.
They lose to number 3. If you lose to a team ranked ahead of you, you can't lose your position.
Locked.
But should that be a rule?
I don't know if it's a rule, but like in my ranking, how I would think they're locked.
But like that's my
K-State's
question
going in no matter
though
what.
is as we get to 12 teams, we're going to see more of this because of conference championships. Now, maybe we start going away from conference championships as I think they should, but Kansas State wins.
Clearly they're in.
TCU's not getting knocked out of the top 12. Now they might get knocked out of the top 4.
Maybe.
But
most likely.
If Kansas State loses to a higher ranked team, there's no reason that Florida State should now be ahead of Kansas State because they lost to a number 3 team while Florida State did nothing.
That chance. And that's where
I think that should be a rule though come next year.
Right. If you're a top 12 playing each other
and the other team doesn't have to play,
you're locked in.
You're locked, right?
You have to be locked in.
Utah can't lose to USC this weekend and then be moved below Florida State.
No. Not shot.
Who didn't play.
Or Washington, or any of them. No.
Or LSU if they lose to Georgia.
Right. If you play and you're playing someone who is ranked above you.
So, like, let's say LSU lose a close game to Georgia, 14 versus number 1 in the SEC championship.
Mm-hmm.
But
and everyone
Utah
else
loses by 2 touchdowns to USC.
Yeah.
So does LSU get to move up to 11 because they played a really close game with a team and
but
lost?
They would move to 12 because Washington didn't play.
Right. They get to move up for losing?
Oh, LSU, you said. Oh, sorry, my bad. They lost.
Yeah, so I'm talking about a team. They lost a really good game to a good team. Do you get to move up for losing? Do you get to move ahead of Florida State? Do you get to move ahead of Clemson, Penn State, like if those teams lose?
Yes, my opinion.
If you lose a close game.
Mm-hmm. Unless, in this specific reason, LSU would have 3 losses. Those would not have 3.
That's what I'm saying. They still lost a close game.
But they have 3 losses. Okay. Now, if they
have
lost that
1 or 2 losses. Right. But all of those other teams would also have to have 1 or 2 losses and not play.
Correct. If you have 3 losses, you're not in the top 12.
You can't lose a close game and move up.
You also can't have 3 losses and be in the top 12.
Well, I mean,
unless they all have freaking 3.
Which, I mean, you're going to have 2 teams at least that have 3
I also think, though, if we were doing top 12, that top 12 doesn't look like that. If we're talking about a top 12 being in the playoffs, that top 12 is not what the committee picks.
Oh, I think it is.
I don't.
Where do you think the movement is?
I think South Carolina is higher, in my opinion.
They have 4 losses.
I think Pac-12 would be
putting
different.
A 4-loss team.
No, I'm not saying they would be higher. I'm thinking these things change a little bit and would be higher, in my opinion.
But you can't have 4 losses.
No, you can't have 4 losses.
Because that's the thing with South Carolina is it's not their quality wins, it's the bad losses. Like they've lost to bad teams.
And honestly,
you can't forgive that.
12-man, Tulane's probably higher. They have less losses. They have 1 loss.
Right. But I think, again, nobody's...
I think losses will come into play more with 12 teams.
Right.
And as they should.
That's fair. Yeah, right.
We should not have a conversation with the top 6.
Right.
Probably, debatably, the top 8 in a 12 in a 12 team. Like, no one should be like, no. There'd be 0 argument with 1 through 8 for me. Mm-hmm. Bama could actually flip with obviously Bama, Tennessee would flip in my opinion.
Right.
Arguably Penn State, but there's no argument there. They're in. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Clemson, that's where the buck would start with me.
Because here's my ultimate problem is I've watched Illinois in the Big Ten who narrowly lost out on a chance to play for a Big Ten championship against Michigan. Gave them all they wanted.
They beat
for
Michigan.
4 quarters.
They beat
didn't win the game.
Right.
Illinois.
Not even ranked.
Not ranked.
They have 3 losses.
So they would be in the top 25.
Are they 3 losses?
3 losses, yeah. They would be in my top 25, first of all. And also, Illinois against Penn State Clemson, Kansas State, Utah, Washington, Florida State, LSU. So
And
basically,
everyone else
anywhere from 8 down,
arguably could beat them
I can argue that they should be in the top 12.
Yep.
And that's Illinois.
with 3 losses. But that's where 12 is exciting.
Yeah.
And the other part of exciting that we haven't even talked about, which is the ultimate thing, is the more teams you have in any type of playoff, the more chaos that can happen.
100%.
You don't know. Because in football, one day, one game.
Yeah. Not as much as basketball,
No.
but like getting to be more so, and especially with
Correct.
Miller and stuff like that. Like,
The only difference in basketball is you could have one star player and he goes off and it's game over.
Yep.
In football, you can't. Like, that's not how that works. But like, you are getting more of that, and that. If the NCAA is smart, or college football, whatever you guys want to call them at this point,
right.
if they could deem more like March Madness, the better. Now, stop expanding March Madness, please. Quit adding everybody.
Right.
But in that scenario, that's why you add more teams, because there's more money, there's more chaos that could happen. A number 1 Georgia could lose to a number 12 Washington.
Yeah.
No, not really, but it could happen.
Right.
You have to play that game.
So and
right?
then in the 12 team, you're going to get top 4 teams are going to get buys.
Yeah.
So then you're going to go 5-12. Yep.
Ohio State, Washington.
Yeah. All day.
I think Ohio State's a.
So like let's
still
look at that. You get your 5-12.
I still think Ohio State's a 10-point.
You got Alabama, Utah.
But
I like that game.
I like that game a lot.
Tennessee, Kansas State.
I like it a lot.
And Penn State, Clemson. Love those matchups.
Penn State wins, but like love those matchups.
So then moving on from there, so let's just like real quick run through this. Ohio State, Washington. Who you got?
Ohio State would edge them.
So in this 12-team playoff, I believe the lower seed, at least first game, would be getting home field advantage. These wouldn't be neutral field, I don't think. First round.
Most likely.
Makes a difference in college football, in my opinion.
A big.
Ohio State's hosting Washington. I'll take Ohio State. Neutral field.
Now, with how we do bowl games, they actually could go 12 bowl games that are all neutral.
So, yeah, that could be true as well.
Right.
So
Ohio State takes it.
Ohio State, Alabama, Utah. Utah's defense isn't quite as good this year. I'd take Alabama trying to find a way just against a Pac-12 school. So, like,
I'll give them the nod.
Yep. And then Tennessee with a backup quarterback against Kansas State.
I'm still
toss-up game.
Yeah, toss-up game.
I'll give Tennessee slide advantage.
I'll give Tennessee.
Penn State, Clemson, Penn State. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 moving on against 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to get the 1 versus 8, which would be Georgia, Penn State.
Love that one.
Georgia rolling.
Yes, absolutely.
Then you get the 2 versus 7, which would be Michigan, Tennessee.
Such a great
game.
Oh,
I think Michigan ultimately takes care of them in the second half, kind of like what we talked about with Ohio State. And then you've got 3 versus 6, which would be TCU, Alabama. Really, I like the challenge that Dugan gives Alabama, because dual threat quarterbacks give Bama problems. TCU's shown the ability to run and pass the ball. Defensively, I think Alabama scores points. That's a shootout of a game.
Bama would pull it out.
Does Bama continue to shoot themselves in the foot in close games, which they have this year? And TCU has found a way to win. So I would lean TCU simply because this year,
based on this year, agreed. Okay.
TCU has found ways to win. Alabama has found ways to lose.
Okay.
And so
I would still give Bama.
I'm going to go with that trend as we talked about in the NFL. Teams have to show me
to finish
that they can finish. For whatever reason, this Alabama team has not shown the ability to finish.
Right.
TCU has in every scenario that they've been put in.
And I'm good with Bama losing.
In front, behind, right.
I'm all about it.
And then lastly, you've got 4 or 5.
Would love this matchup.
Yes.
Oh my God, there'd be 120 points scored. It'd be fantastic.
So
easy selling money.
The thing that I love about this, and the reason that I don't like the Heisman overall, is like, okay, so this would be C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, post Heisman, probably finishing 1-2, maybe 1-3.
Yeah,
overall.
Stupid anyway.
But like 2 elite quarterbacks.
Getting at it.
Caleb Williams, a little more escapability. C.J. Stroud is projected ahead of him from a pro perspective. But 2 guys just getting after it. Defenses who have not shown ability to stop big plays. And offenses who have shown the ability to make big plays.
That's been great. How would you
coin flip of a game?
100% coin flip. And I would be all over watching this one. Actually would love to watch this one over all the other matchups.
Right. I agree completely.
Like I don't.
Yep. And so you get the 4-5 game. Whoever wins that game, you got in your mind, you've got 1, 2, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I have 1, 2, 3, 5. I think Ohio State probably finds a way to win that game, although I think Caleb Williams slightly ahead of CJ Stroud. So I'd actually lean towards just the top 4. And we'd get to the top 4 as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, how likely is that to happen?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But all those chances happen, and all those matchups.
But those are
fun.
great, fun matchups in different ways.
That you can put bowl games at each level.
Right.
Still get the bowl game atmosphere, neutral field at all if you really wanted to.
Right.
And
so just wanted to play through that a little bit, just from a futuristic perspective, a conversational perspective of what happens in the war room.
We truly don't. I believe, and I'm not going to speak for you. I don't believe this conversation is going to be had next week because
and that's the reason I don't want to address 1 through 4. I don't need to picks at this point, but just wanted this is the conversations that are happening. This is why I'm glad that it played out the way that it did. Ohio State, I think, will move up if 3 or 4 lose. I think Ohio State moves in. The argument is whether they should or not. Ohio State doesn't have to play. Those teams are both playing teams in the top 11. TCU is playing number 10. USC is playing number 11. So worst case scenario, TCU ends up with 1 loss, and the only loss they have is number 10.
In a 12 team, they don't move, in my opinion.
So,
by the way,
right,
TCU wouldn't move.
Right,
KCU could move up.
So Ohio State's only loss though. So 1 loss, 1 loss.
Against number 2
is against number 2.
They would stay there.
So,
they would.
But would they take the place of TCU?
Not in my opinion. They would just stay there.
Their loss isn't better.
They didn't play. You didn't get the championship.
Right.
You didn't have
USC, however, different scenario. USC already has 1 loss. It's to number 11.
Now they would have.
Now they get a rematch. You get a second chance against the team. You don't beat them.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
See you later. Someone's jumping you. You're down there.
Like TCU already beat Kansas State. So you get the benefit of the doubt in my mind if you're TCU.
Yes.
However,
USC, no, actually, and I would even argue USC drops below Utah. Don't know where they fall, but if you lost to me twice,
if you both got
in a championship,
but I think Utah has 3 losses total.
Don't care.
No, I don't disagree.
I beat you twice and won for a damn championship.
Drop your ass down here.
You're below me.
Right.
USC
loses, they're out of the conversation.
Right.
That's
Specifically in the 4-man. I'm talking about 12.
No, yeah, for sure.
Utah would jump up and USC better be behind me.
Yeah. No, I don't
that
disagree
would be
with
my
that.
argument. I beat you twice.
So USC wins. They stay 3 or 4. They're not going to get above 3.
No, 1 and 2's locked.
Yep. I don't think win or loss, that really changes. They might flip-flop. Michigan's not losing to Purdue, let's be honest.
Do you think Georgia's losing?
I think they have a better chance of losing than LSU. I don't think
it's better.
I would say 3 and 5% chances of
yeah, we're not talking
right.
Don't get us wrong. We're not talking about 20.
TCU, USC are 55-45 games.
Absolutely. They have to win to get in.
Yep.
Wholeheartedly. And Ohio State's
either one of those teams loses.
Ohio State's in.
Ohio State's in.
Ohio State's in at 4. Ohio State should not be able to jump someone who won a championship.
Both teams lose. Is one of them in?
Yes, TCU would be in.
Okay. Bama's not getting in. Okay.
No.
They're on the doorstep. That's why I asked.
They're there. They are on the doorstep.
Both teams lose. Ohio State's in. Bama is not in over TCU.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I hope that is correct. I think that should be correct.
We are going to have...
Because it's still a loss to a top 10 team.
Correct.
Okay.
One loss.
We're on the same page.
One loss
to a top 10 team that you had to play twice.
And plus you beat them, so you have a good win.
Right.
Bama still does.
And the committee has ranked them 10th. It's not like they're not losing to number 23 North Carolina.
No, they're losing number 10.
Or 25 NC State or number
2 years from now.
Or Purdue.
They're in the playoff.
Right. Okay.
Well then, it's time.